8 healthy mice were placed inside a perfect enclosed world. 5 years later, every single one of them was dead, and not a single death was caused by anything a veterinarian could have diagnosed. This was Universe 25. The temperature was held perfectly stable. The mice had unlimited food, bottomless water bottles, soft nesting material in every corner. There were absolutely no predators and zero trace of disease. The architect of this world was John Calhoun. He was an ethologist, a scientist who studies animal behavior, working out of a federal research lab in Maryland. By 1968, he had spent 2 decades obsessing over one specific question: what happens to a society when nothing is hard anymore? When Calhoun published the results of this experiment, the image of a perfect, doomed society went viral across the globe. Urbanists, politicians, and religious leaders pointed to the data as a metaphor for modern decay. They took away a clear, alarming message: comfort kills. They argued that a life without struggle inevitably destroys itself. Calhoun rejected this reading of his work. Finding the actual cause of death requires looking past the comfort into the specific timeline of the colony's collapse. For the first 100 days, the founders settled in. Then the population doubled every 55 days, creating an exponential curve. By day 315, over 600 animals lived inside. Food was unlimited, but the physical territory became completely saturated. In a normal environment, mouse biology relies on a built-in release valve. When a population outgrows its territory, the surplus individuals emigrate. They leave to find new ground. Universe 25 had no somewhere else. The surplus population was trapped inside the walls. With nowhere to go, standard male social roles broke down. One group of males drifted into the center, forming listless pools of bodies. They had nothing to defend and wouldn't fight back. Meanwhile, a hyperactive second group forced into occupied nests, skipping normal courtship rituals entirely. This graphic shows the feeding stations, illustrating the behavioral sink. Even though every feeder offered identical food, mice compulsively crowded just 2 or 3 spots. An empty feeder became useless to them. The physical walls of paradise remained standing, but the social behaviors required to live within them failed. The mice lost the capacity to function. Next, the female social structure completely collapsed. Because the exhausted males stopped patrolling, nursing mothers were left entirely exposed, forced into stressful defense to protect their nests. Mothers abandoned pups in scattered places. Some forgot which pups were theirs, and some cannibalized their own young. Fewer than 5% survived. The few pups who did survive were raised without a working model of a functional society. They formed the final anomaly of the colony, a generation Calhoun called the beautiful ones. These mice never fought, mated, or engaged in any social activity. Instead, they spent their entire lives in total isolation, obsessively grooming their flawless fur. The population officially peaked on day 560 at 2,200 mice. The final successful birth occurred on day 920. After that, the colony aged until total extinction. The society experienced 2 distinct deaths. Because every social role was already filled, that final generation simply opted out of the species. The death of the spirit occurred years before the death of the physical bodies. Which brings us back to the central question. If an abundance of comfort didn't wipe out the mice, what actually caused the extinction? Calhoun left his actual conclusion written directly in his paper. The killer was the disappearance of meaningful roles. When the population grew past the number of tasks the colony could offer, the entire structure that gave an individual mouse a reason to participate evaporated. The abundance of the enclosure removed the friction that made being alive feel like an active choice. But this is where the comparison between a mouse and a human breaks down. Mice are bound strictly by their physical space. Humans are not. Calhoun spent the rest of his career studying humanity's escape route, a concept he called ideational generativity. Because we aren't trapped by square footage, we can extend ourselves into conceptual space. We can constantly invent new ideas, build new networks, and create new societal roles that didn't exist before. A utopia isn't an automatic death trap, but a society with meaningful roles is. We survive by continuously creating new reasons to be here. The mice in Universe 25 didn't have that choice. We do.